Hey guys, and welcome on into our next NHL season preview show. And today we're going to talk all about the Washington Capitals. Take a look at their 2023-2024 season preview. With me today, on my left is Nick, on my right is Mac. Both of their Twitter links are in the description below. Co-hosts with Harrison on Empty Betters, so make sure to give them a follow as well. And we're going to jump right into it here and look at the offseason for the Washington Capitals. And not a big list of additions and subtractions, but not like other teams, the Islanders, who did absolutely nothing. And I've been getting lots of angry messages on Twitter about the Islanders, but I'm sorry to everybody. I'm breaking these down how I see it. And I'm not going to sugarcoat things. If your team had a bad offseason, I'm going to just flat out say it. So, looking here for the Capitals, of course, they missed the playoffs for the first time in quite a bit. They had 4 first round exits since they won the Cup, 15 straight seasons um, of having a winning record. So that is over as well. And they did make some additions here. Max Pacioretty, of course, is currently hurt, which is the history of Max Pacioretty. But if and when he does get healthy, he can produce still. So as long as he can stay healthy, he's a great addition. Joel Edmondson also by trade. Matthew Phillips, a younger guy who played for Calgary, now here for the Capitals. Chase Prisky, another guy who's had potential but hasn't really fit in anywhere. Maybe the Capitals will be a good spot for him. Carl Hagelin, retired on the other side. My best memory of him, you guys won't like to hear it, but is
I
when he
already
gave
know
up
what
that
you're going to
shorthanded. Yeah, he gave up that shorthanded goal to Minnesota, and I've watched it recently, so that's why I bring it up. But that's
say.
my
The
best
goal,
memory
yeah.
of him. But of course, not probably your guys' best memory. But he's
No,
retired
that was
now.
a tough one.
Yeah, Zach Fucali, Matt Irwin, some depth guys gone as well. Connor Brown goes to Edmonton, projected to be on the top line with McDavid, so I'm sure he'll enjoy that. Connor Sheary, Craig Smith, also out the door. And for me, looking at it, I don't really think there was a whole lot of improvement, but there wasn't a whole lot of negative decline either. I think things are kind of even here. If Max Pacioretty is healthy, then I do think the Capitals have the edge here because when he's healthy, he can be a very dangerous player. We'll go to Nick second on this segment. What do you think here, additions and subtractions for the Capitals? What do you think of the guys they brought in and the guys they let go?
I like some of the guys they brought in. I really like the Edmondson move. I think that's a great fit for this team. I don't think, it got the best reception in the Twitter world, but then again, we've learned time and time again that that usually means nothing. So I'm a big fan of the Joel Edmondson trade. I like that for the Caps. I really hate them losing Connor Sherry, and I really hate it the most because he ended up with Tampa Bay, and I think that's just going to work out way too well. And that's usually what happens when players like that leave the Caps.
Awesome. Mac, what do you think? Additions and subtractions.
Yeah, for the most part, I agree. I think you're spot on, Nick, with the Joel Edmondson thing. When I saw that, I didn't think too much of it, but I mostly was like, yeah, cool. It seems like a smart move. And for some reason, a lot of the younger Caps Twitter fans really were like up in arms about this. I think, they still have a lot of belief in Alexiev and some of the younger D, and that's great. But, it never hurts to have a little bit of a safety net there. If some of the younger guys want to kind of fight their way for a spot, I'd like to see that happen rather than just kind of hand it to them. So I like that. The Pacioretty thing, it's tough. I mean, Terry, I think you nailed it. If he can be healthy, if he can stay healthy, dude is a menace. He can definitely still perform, but it's a big if. He's had all kinds of different injuries. Most recently, the Achilles thing, which is never easy. So that's kind of a big question mark. I also, from what I understand, earliest he would even be back is, from what I've heard, probably not till like December, and that seems like a best case scenario. So I'm just trying not to really think about him much at all right now, and just kind of focus on some of the other stuff. I love, honestly, Matthew Phillips is kind of a guy that I'm a little excited about. He's got some potential in my opinion, and I've heard through the grapevine from some folks in DC that he's been turning some heads a little bit at camp, so that's cool. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's another like local boy. I want to say he's like a Virginia native, or somewhere around there. Don't quote me on that, but I thought I heard that somewhere. Anyway, that's kind of my take on the additions. As far as subtractions, Hagelin, hats off to you, great career. Connor Brown, I really wish we got to see like what he actually could have done in DC. The injury was unfortunate last year. And I echo everything Nick said about Cherry. It's just a classic. Can't wait to see this guy tear up the league on a different team situation.
I really think like what you said about the patches thing, like that whole scenario where it just comes down to his health. You could say that about the entire team this season. I mean, this team lost so many man games to injury last year, and so many key players were, constantly out of the lineup. You had Wilson, you had Carlson miss almost the entire season. You had Backstrom operating at 20% of what he's capable of. So I think the MO for this team all season is just going to be, stay healthy.
Yeah, for sure. And maybe missing the playoffs is a little bit of a blessing in disguise for that aspect, because you get a little bit more rest than you would have. But we'll jump into the second segment, which is taking a look at upcoming free agents. And as you can see, it's a pretty small list here. The Capitals have their guys signed at least multiple years. Most of the guys, when you look at it, Anthony Mantha, UFA. I'll have to see what he does. Nicholas Aube-Kubel, another UFA. I'm sure the Capitals will probably sign him. As you mentioned earlier, Alexei Protas, he's an RFA, so shouldn't have any issue re-signing him. And then the guy I think that's important to re-sign as well, Rasmus Sandin. He's also an RFA, so he'll be re-signed. Probably shouldn't break the bank on this contract. I don't know if the Caps are going to sign him long-term or just a bridge deal, but overall, not a lot of pressing matters here up in off season for upcoming free agents. Mac, we'll go to you second this time. What do you think here, upcoming free agents? Who do you want the Caps to focus most on?
Well, for me, the big thing that I'm looking at on this list on either forward or defense is Mantha, and that's a guy that myself and most Caps fans have been really tough on ever since he's come over here. He just hasn't been what we want him to be. In general, I'd say his whole NHL career, he's really just not quite performed to what the scouts had kind of initially thought this player could be. And I'm interested to see if anything will change under a new coach. And as we mentioned here, now that he's an unrestricted free agent next year, maybe that does something, maybe it doesn't. We'll see, but that's definitely something I'm going to keep my eye on. I think the naive Caps fan in me is finding it deep down, some sort of hope where I'm like, all right, maybe this is the year he finally like turns into the player we all hoped he would be. But I don't know, it might be wishful thinking. It's definitely something I'm going to be looking out for. I think all the other guys, kind of minor in terms of the big picture for the Caps, as you mentioned. Sandin is somebody that I hope to see play a full, really solid year for the Caps, and then ideally probably re-sign him, I think, for a bridge deal, unless he, breaks records or something that we're not expecting this year. But yeah, it's kind of my surface level take here. Big picture. I'm curious what happens with Mantha mostly.
That's definitely the big concern, I think, for Caps fans. It was the number one thing to complain about on Twitter last year. It's definitely going to be the number one thing they've got their eyes on this season. I'm totally with you on this, Mac. I really hope the fact that it's a contract year for him is, some form of motivation to put together a great season here, and 1,000% rooting for the guy because he is a really, really likable dude. I do think in terms of like growth potential here, the big thing you got to take care of in the offseason is Sandin. I know we had a small sample size last year, but 15 points through 19 games was great to watch. I do really like the way he fits into this defense core. And like you mentioned, I don't think we're looking at anything record-breaking here. We're not talking Quinn Hughes money. We're not talking Cale Makar money. So this should be a very simple task for the Washington Capitals.
Yeah, and if you look at, I don't have the exact numbers up here, but I know Washington's an old older team. So you definitely want to keep guys like Rasmus Sandin in the fold because the youth is going to be important for the Capitals in the next few years. Taking a look at the possible lineup here, of course, this is according to Daily Faceoff. I still get angry comments on videos about why are you putting this guy with this guy? You're going to break up this chemistry. And guys, it's not me, okay? So please don't kill the messenger. This is according to Daily Faceoff. So, of course, lots of things can change, but this is what's projected to look like to start the season. Ovechkin, Kuznetsov, and Wilson. What can you really say about that line? It should definitely produce, as long as they stay healthy. Kuznetsov requesting a trade still hasn't been moved. I know there was definitely rumors about Minnesota. Of course, to make the cap work would be extremely difficult, but I do know that they were potentially looking to add him. Of course, the Russian aspect with Kaprizov helps as well, but nothing has been done. He's still a Washington Capital as we record this show. The second line, Oshie, Backstrom, and Milano. If Milano's there, this is a big test for him. He's getting a big opportunity, top 6 minutes. See how he does. You guys have already talked about Mantha Strome, who's had a pretty good overall time since he's come to Washington. Snively on the other side. And then the fourth line is what it is. We'll see who fits there. Defense, Carlson, if he's healthy, is a great defenseman still, especially offensively. Carvery, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. I apologize, but I know he's looked at pretty well by Caps fans. We'll see your guys' opinions here. Sandine, we talked about Jensen, Van Riemsdyk, and Edmondson on that bottom pair. Alexiev is there as well, and I've kept my eye on that guy. I think he could definitely be a good defenseman eventually, a physical guy there. And then goaltending, Kemper and Charlie Lindgren. And then I'm not sure who would be the next guy up in the AHL for the Caps, but looks like it's going to be Darcy Kemper. Kemper's net still to start the season. Of course, he signed that long-term deal. I still have a picture of him, a signed picture when he was a Wild player. He was my favorite goalie, but didn't have the best year in Washington. I'm sure you guys can agree with that last year. Overall, I don't see a whole lot of difference from last year. I think some guys will have improved years, but overall, it's kind of the same Washington Capitals team that I think that it's been the last few years. Nick, we'll go to you second this time. What do you think about this overall lineup for the Capitals?
Well, I think you put it perfectly, Terry. It's pretty much the same Washington Capitals team you've probably seen over the last 2 or 3 years, give or take some changes in the bottom six. I think what really stands out to me this year, though, is what I already mentioned is the health of this team. You've got Nicholas Backstrom coming back from that surgery he desperately needed in the offseason. Says he's never felt better. He says he's operating at 100% with his hip, so that's great to hear. Carlson supposed to be feeling better. Wilson fired up and ready to go after that big extension last year as well. So I'm really looking forward to seeing those guys get at the lineup and play. And you touched on Sonny Milano. That was a guy that played all up and down the Caps lineup last year. Absolutely earned his roster spot. Played with Ovechkin a ton. Played on the second, third, and fourth line a ton. So I'm really excited to see where he slots in this season.
Awesome. Mac, what do you think overall about this lineup?
Yeah, I'm hoping to see some improvements from some guys, as you mentioned. I'm hoping we kind of see Faravari take that next step. I think I liked a lot of what I saw from him last year. I still think he has a little bit of room for improvement. Still a young player. I think he tends to work pretty well with Carlson. And other than that, I think pretty much what Nick said. Hoping that the guys who have had some health issues recently can stay healthy. I think we heard all four of them. That's Wilson, Oshie, Backstrom, and Carlson, the main guys here that have had some serious injuries recently. I think we heard all four of them at different times in the last couple of weeks give press conferences saying something along the lines of, they're done talking about the injury. They feel 100%. They're ready to move past it. So you hope all that's true. And you hope that we don't see any of these guys go back on IR. early in the season. But I had faith in this lineup last year around this time, and then it was kind of a lot of injuries that took the train off the track. So I'm inclined to believe that this can be a good hockey team if they can stay healthy. That really is the biggest question. I mentioned it before, but I like having a guy like Alexiev as your seventh D, and kind of force them to fight for that spot. The goalies, you touched on it. Neither one of them had the best year last season, but I think a lot of that can be chalked up to just poor performance in front of them. I know Kemper, I just felt so frustrated for him most of last season because I think he gave the Caps a chance to win in almost every game he played. It was just a lot of really tough play in front of him. So hopefully it's not more of the same this season. But yeah, I'm maybe naive about it as a lifelong Caps fan, but I feel decent about it. I think this lineup can be a fringe playoff team if they stay healthy.
I totally agree. I absolutely think this team could get into the playoffs. I actually, Mac, to your point about Faravari and Carlson, I really think they work fantastic together. I think that's one of the most underrated top D pairings in the NHL right now.
For sure. That's a perfect segue, as you mentioned, about the Caps being a fringe playoff team, to get to future bets. And when you look at it, the books don't quite agree with you. They have the Caps to make the playoffs at plus 235, minus 300 for the Caps to miss the playoffs. Looking at the point total at 85.5 here. The Caps had 80 last year, 100 the season before. So last year, obviously, was a bad year. But if you look at the year before, they had 100. Even in the 69 game season, they had 90 points, and then 104 the year before that. So was last year just a blip? Was it just a down year? Are they going to come back here? 85.5 seems like a low total to me. Make the playoffs plus 235. The only issue I have with that is Caps are in a really tough division. They're in a really tough division. Other than Philadelphia uh, and Columbus, they're not ready yet, but they're going to be an up and coming team in the next few years. Going to want to watch out for Columbus. Might not be there yet. Pittsburgh, kind of in the same deal as Washington. I do like what they did in the offseason. I already took a shot at the Islanders already. They should fall down in the standings, in my opinion. Washington is going to be in that fight. I do agree that they're going to be. I think they're going to be closer to a playoff spot than they will to the bottom of the standings. When it comes to President's Trophy, win division, win conference, win Stanley Cup, those are all some nice, pretty high odds, but I can't pull the trigger on any of those. I apologize. Looking at Ovechkin goals, Ovechkin points, 40.5 is his goal total. He had 42 last year in 73 games. It's Ovechkin. That's pretty much all I have to say. I would look at the over if he stays. 73 games isn't too bad, but if he plays any more games than that, he should be able to hit 41 goals. Point totals at 71.5. He had 75 last year. I'd still go with the over. This is still Ovechkin's team, 100%. Kemper wins 24.5. 22 last year, but last year was a bad year. I'm not going to pull the trigger on either one there. I can see it going either way. Do we see more of Charlie Lindgren? He got 31 games played last year, so we'll have to see what happens there. Ovechkin to win the Rocket Richard, plus 2,500. Not going to pull the trigger there. I do think Ovechkin is starting to decline, but I think it's a slow decline. But I think his best days are probably behind him. I think we can probably all agree with that. But who will have more points, Detroit or Washington? That's a tough one. I'm not going to pull the trigger either way. Detroit, I don't think they're quite there yet, so I would go with Washington over Detroit. I think Detroit's still a couple years away, in my opinion. But Nick, future bets here for the Capitals. Does anything on this list here catch your eye here?
Yeah, I really think the plus 235 to make the playoffs is probably worth a little something. I mean, I do wish the odds were a little bit more in my favor, but then again, I actually think that's probably the most realistic team bet on here. They're not going to win the President's Trophy. They're not going to win their division. They're not going to win their conference. And, I'm not going to say the last one because anything's possible if you make it to the playoffs. But the Ovechkin and the Kemper props, I would say over for pretty much all of them. Points is probably the one that I would be the iffiest on, just because I think we'll see Ovi's assists greatly decline. I do think we're going to see the goals continue to come, but I think the assists are going to start to go down. And then more points, Detroit or Washington. I got to go with the Caps here. I think the Red Wings are just, while they're fun, they're entertaining. I think they're just too far off. They're at opposite ends of the cycle, I know, but I got to go with the Caps for that one.
I totally agree. Mac, what do you think here? Future bets for the Capitals? Anything catch your eye here?
Yeah, not much different to add, honestly, than what Nick said. I think the most bang for your buck has got to be the Caps to make the playoffs. I mean, it's a toss up. I could easily see them not quite getting there again, but I think they'll get in, and that's decent enough odds. I'd maybe toss a little something on there. Yeah, I think they'll be better than Detroit. It's a decent comparison, but yeah, you kind of got one team on the downhill and the other on the incline. So kind of an interesting comparison there. I do think Ovi cracks 40 goals again. I do. I think with this is again kind of operating under the assumption that most of these guys that we just talked about in the lineup segment stay healthy. So hopefully he's got those supporting roles around him to kind of feed the puck to him. I think we'll also need to see the power play be better than it was last year if we want to 45 or get anywhere near 50 goal season from Ovechkin again, which I don't think is outside of the realm of possibility. But over 40.5, I'm definitely taking that one. I'd say that's pretty much all I have to add there.
Awesome. And that is the Washington Capitals season preview show. As I said at the beginning of the video, make sure to give both guys a follow. Make sure to give a follow to the podcast as well, Empty Betters. Thank you guys for coming on. Best of luck to the Capitals this season. And we'll talk to you guys later. Thanks.
Appreciate the time. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone, so much for watching this NHL season preview show. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons as we continue on breaking down all 32 NHL teams, which will lead to the regular season when the Getting Wild with Terry and Friends NHL betting show will return. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Of course, make sure to follow everyone in the description below that was on today's show to show them some support. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you on the next show.